Five things to know about your therapist and how it can help you.
Brannon, what's going on? A
Not much.
little bit of a late start today.
Yeah, a little late start, but we're getting going. It's,
We're moving we're moving today finally.
it just means it's going to be a really good episode. Yeah, that's what this means.
Yeah, it does.
So buckle up, everybody. Here, it's going to be good. So, dude, you drove through a winter storm, man.
Yeah, we went to
Did you
Denver
hit
this.
any ice or snow or anything?
Yeah, there's a couple pretty, you know, anyone who hasn't driven through Wyoming in a snowstorm has not really fully lived
No,
yet.
no. Anyone who hasn't has lived. They actually survive.
Yeah.
Did I
Yeah.
ever tell you the time I did a full 360 on that road on the freeway
On I-80 up in Wyoming.
on I-80? It was just like wind, like, and there was like semis like turning over and ice, and we like tapped the brakes. I was in the back. We tapped the brakes. Next thing you know, we did a full 360 in the middle of the freeway, and stopped just facing straight.
You
and
got
didn't
lucky.
and
You got
didn't
lucky.
barely didn't hit anyone. Yeah, it was crazy. So, yeah, if you haven't driven through Wyoming in a winter storm, don't.
Yeah.
That's my advice. So, that day, when we did it in the winter storm, it was supposed to be like a, I don't know, 6 hour drive, and it ended up being like 14.
Oh yeah, because everything just like total comes to a crawl,
It
especially when you've
was,
got all of those extra. That's like a highway thoroughfare for all of just kind of the freight trucks and things. So, and the winds add to the weather. So it's definitely a gauntlet.
you may consider I-70 sometimes a lot better than I-80.
Yeah.
So, um, well, Tyler, should we get into the inner workings of therapy and being a therapist and
Yeah,
uh,
let's talk a little bit about we titled this the episode basically sometimes people ask us about being a therapist. They also ask us how to choose a good therapist, and so we're kind of merging both of those things together today. We're going to talk a little bit about your therapist and some things that you probably don't think about or that you don't know about your therapist, that if you do know these things, you might find more success in your therapy process.
yeah, I think it's important. You think about things like a doctor or people that help us, helping professionals, even like you go into your mechanic, like you just don't know all of what's going on with them. And their job is to fix your car. There's an objective. Their job is to like help you with your medical issue or whatever. I would say that yes, mechanics and doctors are humans, and absolutely, it's important to know that they have pain and they feel right.
Yeah.
Um, but with your therapist especially, this is something I think is important to understand. Um, the the most important tool that your therapist has when they work with you is them, is their humanity. And so their humanity is being brought to the table as they do work with you. Their empathy, their connection, their ability to feel with you. And so I think it's helpful to understand that yes, you're there to meet an objective to heal, but your relationship with your therapist is actually important as a human to human relationship.
Yeah, there's a book that was written that did like a full study on like what makes therapy most effective, and they looked at all sorts of different factors, and then they boiled it all down, and they came down to one factor that will dictate more than any other factor whether or not your therapy will be successful, and the factor was your relationship with your therapist.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter what modalities. It didn't really matter as much as what's the nature of your relationship with your therapist.
Yeah. And we're talking about a healthy, appropriate, or good relationship.
Yeah, well
Right?
boundaried.
A well
Yeah.
boundaried, like your therapist relationship that they have with you is a therapist client relationship. It's that type of a relationship. However, in that type of relationship, and I think Tyler, all therapists, maybe we're getting to one right here. All therapists kind of they have to be aware of that line, but also give enough love and connection from themselves in order to build rapport and to have that relationship and then keep that line. So there's always that balance of client therapist boundary to relationship. But I've worked with therapists that are very like they're way too into I'm important, I'm the professional, and I'm here to have boundaries with you and get to your objective. And they don't give any of themselves to that relationship. They're just objective, rational, logical, and they don't connect to their clients. And so then they don't have that relationship that actually helps the client move forward.
Right. So but that's the balance there, right, Brandon? I
It's a
was talking to
balance.
my wife is a therapist too, and she was talking to me over the weekend while we were driving in this snowstorm about a situation where she had a client recently who overdosed and passed away. And so she had to go to the funeral. And of course, it was just devastating. And she was kind of like bemoaning to me this weird situation that you find yourself in as a therapist sometimes in a moment like that, where she goes to this funeral and she knows details about this person's life that nobody at the funeral knew. Like, and at the same time, she couldn't tell you how many kids he had. She couldn't tell you, like, some of the other things that would be more of like what a best friend might know because of the nature of the relationship of being the therapist working on certain targets and not knowing the actual full relationship, right? It's a weird place to be in where you're coming in and there needs to be some level of right boundaries with the right direction in terms of what you want to work on, while there is still the human element of having a relationship and a process in therapy. What they call it with the therapist is good therapists have a good process for what they call joining in the therapy process. That doesn't mean skewing boundaries too much, but it does mean, hey, we are joined. Like you can trust me, and you kind of know a little bit who I am and what I'm about, and therefore I can give some of myself to this process a little bit differently.
Yep. It's interesting as you talk about that, Tyler. I just think of all the times I've been in the grocery store and seen somebody down an aisle and just thought, yeah, I know everything about that person. And and I can't even go up and say hi like I'm not supposed to because I'm not supposed to acknowledge that I know them. If they can come up and say hi to me, that's okay. Um so it's this tricky thing. I was just at a dance concert last Friday and say that happened, and it's just like it's an interesting thing because I don't want to be cold, but I also need to maintain confidentiality and boundaries. And um and just like you're talking about with your wife, like that those feelings of I know them on a level that a lot of people don't know them, and yet I can't really talk about that.
Yeah, right.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Um so so I got some other things, Tyler. If do you have some?
Yeah, let's go through just a few things of, what you could know about your therapist that could also help you if you know these things in terms
Yeah.
of the way you look at it. Yeah. We can go back and forth for a minute if you want. Brandon, you want to start?
Yeah, one thing to consider, and this is, let's say you're bumping into your therapist's office about 2 in the afternoon. You got all these problems, all this stuff that you want to get off your chest, and you're glad you have this hour of therapy to get it off your chest. That's good. That's awesome. Good for you for going.
That's what you're coming for.
Good for you for going to therapy. Um, the therapist, t- usually a therapy session is about how long, Tyler? How long is it supposed to be?
50 minutes.
And how long is it?
It depends on your boundaries, but for me, usually more than 50 minutes.
Let's say it's 55, right? But usually it's like button up against that hour, and one client walks out the door and you literally have a space of between 5 and 0 minutes. And what is that time like, Tyler, that between those clients? Like,
You mean as a
what
therapist?
does that mean to you? Yeah.
That's time to for me personally, it's time to kind of work on transitioning to
Yeah.
be able to try to be fully present for the next person. So that sometimes includes a few deep breaths. That sometimes includes even some physiological kind of like somatic stuff to like release my own energy sometimes.
Yep.
And it also includes a lot of work with like I know that this is an unhealthy word in the recovery world sometimes, but it's helpful in the workplace is compartmentalizing, being able to take what I just experienced and be able to set that aside and move into the next thing and say I'm here now with whatever else is coming through again.
So you just, let's say you just had an intense couple session, like it was just, let's say it was a disclosure, intense couple session, just heavy, and it pushes up against the time. You got 3 minutes, like, and in walks this person at 2 in the afternoon, like sits on your couch. Um, I think it's important to understand from the client's perspective that it is your therapist's job to be present for you.
Yes.
Like, absolutely. And it's their job to have those boundaries and figure out what to do with that little amount of time that they have between the last session and you. It's important to understand that. Um, but it's also important to understand that a therapist is a human that can't do that perfectly. If it was highly emotional in the hour before, it took a lot of energy, um, then it's it's almost impossible to take 3 minutes and clear it all out and quickly compartmentalize. And I think we've gotten really good at that, Tyler. I think you're good at it. I think I'm good at it. It's a skill that you need to learn as a therapist, and it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's just it is that's why therapists I think should be following through on what they preach to their clients because if I'm also then not going home from work at the end of the day and doing what I need to take care of myself emotionally, practice good emotional hygiene, do my daily charge, make sure I'm talking through things with people, then that's going to stack on top of itself more and more and more throughout the days, weeks, months. And then eventually I'm going to be a shell of the therapist I want to be. And I'm not going to be able to be helpful to my clients. So you kind of want to be looking for a therapist who also practices the kinds of things that they preach a little bit.
Tyler, when you were in your height of workaholism, what was your record in terms of
Oh,
appointments in a row?
oh, dude, like it was. Um, and I thought I was saving the
Oh, you
world,
thought
man.
you were doing the right thing, right?
I
Like,
thought I was saving the world, and I
and
was doing like 12-hour days of straight back to back to back to back to back therapy.
I don't know if people fully understand what that means, what Tyler just said, but like the a human isn't designed to sit and listen for 12 hours straight. And your just your brain, but let alone your spirit and your energy and at about for me, and I know you're a lot tougher than me, Tyler. Um, but I at about the sixth session, I would get a lot of tension in my eyes, and I would get a headache, and I would just feel this fatigue that I can't even describe. It's an emotional, spiritual, even physical fatigue that I could get in that place of fatigue and I could grind for the rest of the day. I could
Like
stay,
autopilot.
yeah, autopilot. I could do it for the rest of the day. Um, and this isn't healthy, you guys. Like what we're talking about, Tyler and I have learned, we've changed. I really have made a lot of adjustments, but you get in that fatigue for the rest of the day. And I think my record was like 11 in a row. And then I did a group right after it. So it was like 12 and a half hours straight of talking and listening. When you get home at night, Tyler, and you've had a day like that, like how much do you have to give?
Yeah, usually the tank's pretty empty.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know,
duh.
but that's on your therapist to make sure that they're doing whatever they need to for their own emotional
Yeah, this
hygiene.
this is the
Yeah.
unhealthy that you were
Yeah.
talking about. A therapist should practice what they preach. And I'll tell you, Tyler, I don't do more than 4 sessions in a row. Like I need a full hour off after 4 sessions. Like I don't do more than 6 sessions in a day anymore. Like I just don't like,
Yeah. You've
and I
kind of
know
found that spot for yourself,
if I hit
right?
that 4 and I have an hour, I can do two more and I can be really present. Um,
Right. And for me, it's like it's more about the if I front load with dailies, like this is something that's shifted over my own career and my own life, but I have almost 2 hours every morning where it's daily charge stuff.
yeah,
And if I am doing my daily charge on a regular basis, then I can come in and it means I start my day a little bit later than I
he's talking
used to.
about self care.
Yeah. Um, but if I fill the tank up on a regular basis every morning, then I have more to give. And so there are a couple days a week where I work long days. I still probably don't do more than 5 or 6 one-on-ones because I found that for me, my group work is like it doesn't drain the tank. It
It's
actually
life
fills the
giving.
tank.
Hmm.
And the one-on-ones and the couples work sometimes, at least with my personality and my style, is the part where I pour different parts of myself into it, and that's the part that needs to be rebuilt every day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so so I have a couple days a week where I do long days, but I feel like I still have like good most days I still have good energy and passion because the that 2 hours in the morning, which used to get filled in by clients.
yeah,
I felt
yeah.
so bad when I started changing my routine to I cut out 2 clients per day. So that's 10 clients a week to do self care. And it felt like I was abandoning people. It felt like I was like not doing as much good in the world. It felt like I was being selfish until I started to get this kind of conviction of, holy cow, I'm way better for my clients now than I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that story. Okay, do you have another one, Tyler?
Yeah, I
I
would say just before we move on from that one, I'll just say something that, and the reason I'm sharing this is for people who are listening to be kind of considering this for themselves and how it'll actually help you. But there have been times when, like, maybe I've come out of a session with a couple and you can almost feel the energy as they leave the office. It's like, you can kind of feel that like heaviness. And the next client's waiting in the chair there and they kind of look at me and go like, do you want to take a minute or two before we meet?
yeah.
Like just even that like thoughtfulness for just a second actually like for me is almost like helps me hit the reset button faster and be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like I've rarely had to say, oh yeah, give me a couple minutes. There have been a couple times where I've had to say, hey, give me 3 to 5 minutes right now. And then I'll go into my office and I'll do some breathing or I'll make a phone call or I'll flush something through. But most of the time, just that acknowledgement of, hey, I felt whatever was going on there for just a split second. And if you need a chance to transition, go ahead and transition. I'd rather have all of you than just like come straight in and get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's been really helpful. And what it does is it helps me to transition faster, but then it also gives that feeling of like the human element coming back makes me more desirable to want to like fully engage back in with my client.
Yep. Another thought of advice that I thought of as you're talking, Tyler, is um to like be cognizant of time yourself as the client. It's the therapist's job ultimately to manage that and to have those boundaries, but it can be your job too. Like, that we put multiple clocks in a therapy office. I see one behind Tyler right there. There's a reason why we can
My
see.
wife made me put it right there because that's the way I face it. She's like, Tyler, you're terrible with ending your sessions on time. Like, make sure you watch that clock.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason why we see clocks both directions. And if don't drop a bomb with 3 minutes left. If you're going to drop the bomb, come in and drop the bomb. But don't hold it to the very end and then be like, but now I really need to talk about this. Boom. And it puts a therapist in a tough position, where they want to like listen, they want to care, they want to help you with that thing, but they also got to say, "Hey, I got someone waiting in my lobby.
It's
Like
kind of, yeah, it's
you
weird.
got to go."
Yeah.
So you can be cognizant of that and help your therapist with that as well. Okay. Um, should we move on, Tyler?
Yeah.
I,
Let's do another one. I'll throw one out there.
okay.
This one is um, understanding if you're going to a therapist and it feels like you're trying out to be one of their clients, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like it's kind of a weird dance. It's a weird dance because ultimately you're hiring a therapist and they work for you. And most people can come in and the way that business is normally done is that I hired you so I get everything I want from you and I'm entitled to X, Y, and Z. But the best therapists are boundaried enough and they know who they are and what their lane is and what they specialize in and what their ideal clients are with who they can most help, that sometimes they'll actually be the ones to say, I don't think we're the right fit.
Yeah.
I think you could do better with this person or that person or this person.
Yeah.
And if they're really, really busy and they happen to come across that way, it's not because they're arrogant potentially. It's because they know what they're really good at and they're going to be helpful in actually getting you the right kind of help.
Yeah.
I remember this happening a couple of years ago. I had somebody, they called me up. I want to be on your caseload. I want to be on your caseload. I want to be because I met with them once and I was like, hey, I'm not quite the right fit for you. And they're like, no, I need to be here. I need to be here. I kind of met with them a few more times. And finally I was like, hey, I don't think I am the right fit for you. And I think this person and this person and this person, I gave 3 or 4 referrals and they left my office really mad, like almost feeling like rejected.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, that's one person, I feel bad, whatever. I didn't really hear from him again. And then like 3 years later, I had a new person call me and say, hey, so and so said you're the perfect person for me. And I'm like, who? And they say the name, and I'm like, that person was furious at me because I wasn't the one to work with them.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, see, but they finally caught on to this idea of finding the right fit for a therapist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard, Tyler, as you talk about this, and it's something I want to acknowledge is there is not enough good therapy out there. And I hate to say this, but the really good therapists are um, they can charge a lot of money and they can pick and choose the clients they want to work with, because there's just such high demand for really good therapy. Um,
You know what
and
happens too? It's kind of a weird thing. It's a weird dance that happens. But when a therapist knows what they're really good at, and then they pick and choose the clients that they know they can actually help, they find a lot of success. They stay more passionate. They're less burned out,
and they get more referrals.
and then they get more referrals. And it's this weird thing that kind of spirals itself that direction. So they're actually higher in demand by just knowing what they're really, really good at and being selective. And
Tyler, you know what's crazy is when I raised my prices, I got busier.
yep,
Like if you think about that, it's like, and I think what it shows people like, golly, like, what think about what's on the line with therapy. You want to go to the best,
yeah,
right? And so I don't know what we're saying to like the audience or the clients here, other than um,
what,
be persistent and be ready and willing to do your work. I'll take clients who are like, let's do this. If I feel like I can really help them move forward, no matter how bad or horrible their situation is, but if they're humble and ready to go, I'm much more likely to say, okay, like schedule another session.
yeah. And maybe what I would say to Brandon, to what we're trying to say here is you for sure want to find a good fit. We've talked about that in the past on other episodes, but the best therapy seems to be when there is an understanding of a collaboration, that even though you're necessarily hiring me for my services and I'm going to treat it that way and I'm going to give you the very best value that I can give you, this is a collaboration between two people and we want to make sure that it's the right collaboration where you end up winning, right?
I want to speak to that, Tyler. That's a really good point, and I think this is important for people to understand. I hear things like this a lot. I got to the point with a therapist where I'd go in every week and I'd sit down and we'd just like chat about the week, and that was it. Like it'd just be like we wouldn't really do anything, but I'd just like talk to him. So that's something that I hear a lot. Or I was meeting with a therapist and it just felt like they wanted to be my friend and I felt like I needed to perform for them kind of. Um again, not this is we're not looking for that. That I think that the sweet spot is what you just said. When a client comes in, this is a collaboration. We're going to work together. The therapist is the guide, um, but the therapist doesn't do the work for you. They're boundaried in the way that they are not over invested in your success. They are boundaried in a way where they don't take personal, whether you like them or not, whether you're going to be successful or not. So then they can shoot straight with you. They can be really honest. They can be direct. They can give a ton of empathy. And you're going to feel from them this strength in the collaborative process and this guidance from them. And they're going to hand it back to you to say, go do your work. This is yours. I'm not taking it on myself. But I got some direction. We have some ideas. We can reflect back and help you get conscious of things that you're not conscious of and aware of, so that you can go out and try something new. That is what you're looking for. And when the attachment gets weird, and you're sensing that the attachment is weird in your therapy sessions, listen to that as the client. It's like, maybe the therapist is extracting something here from these sessions that isn't good. And does that make sense, Tyler, what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. There's a couple others we probably want to get to, Brandon. Why don't you jump into the next one?
Okay. I got a bunch here. So here's one. Letters behind their name does not automatically mean that you should trust them. I've seen therapists with a ton of letters behind their name that are not good therapists. Um, Trust is something that is built and something that is earned. And I think a lot of times people just want answers. I was talking to someone last week, and they were a betrayed client. D-Day had just happened, and they went into a therapy office just like desperate for somebody to say, I know what to do. And in that vulnerable state, I think of, we've talked about Jody in the past. This is a good example of it. In that vulnerable state, a therapist can come in and say, okay, like, you are so vulnerable, I can tell you exactly what to do. But if you get those icky feelings of like this, my gut, my intuition, my discernment still doesn't feel right, I'm not gonna. There's a difference, Tyler, between I don't like what that therapist is saying, and so now I'm gonna like fight against it, and my gut tells me this is off. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because a
100%.
therapist's job is to push you, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's difficult. That's all good. But when there's a little bit of like, ugh, like something's off here, just because they have a bunch of letters behind their name doesn't mean you just say, oh, okay, I'll do whatever you say. Right?
Yep. Yeah, Brandon, you and I both kind of look at it a little differently than maybe most do in terms of how you hire. Um, we don't look at letters behind names at all.
No.
We look at what we call kind of the it factor, and the it factor is the heart and soul of being a healer. You know, the passion for it, the willingness to learn, to gain the skills, to gain the knowledge, to gain like the techniques and tools and information. Yes, but we had someone come through just about 5 years ago, really wanting to work with us, had tons of credentials behind their name, but in an interview, it just it just was not the right fit. And we ended up taking someone who was fresh out of grad school, but just had the it factor and was willing to go and get certified in EMDR, ART, the stuff we like to do. Um, but we wouldn't hire them because they're certified in that. We hire them because of their abilities to be a healer, and then they go and get the certifications that allow them to do whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Um, just to add on to what you just said, every therapist is a human and every human is unique. And that means that you're not a good fit with everybody. And just because they have letters behind their name doesn't mean that they're the right therapist for you. The right therapist for you might be different than the right therapist for me because
That's
they're different.
that's right. That's
Right.
right. And that kind of leads into this other one that I wanted to talk about that goes along with actually two of them that kind of merged with what you just said, Brandon, is remember when you're working with a therapist, even though they're coming with and you're coming to them for a specific set of knowledge and skill set, you're also dealing with another human being who also has human problems.
Yeah.
You know, we're really good, Brandon.
Therapists
Like
aren't perfect.
we're really good at projecting that we are.
Yeah.
Like we like to be able to be the ones to solve everybody else's problems to avoid our own. But every therapist is also a human being who is working through human problems. And so just understanding that can allow you to connect on a human level a little bit with the person that you're working with as well. And that
Yeah.
leads to the other part that you were saying, Brandon, that I wanted to bring up and make sure we had it in here today in this episode is that, I live in a little small, and I wouldn't call it small, but like Cache Valley, Utah, and there's hundreds of therapists just in Cache Valley, Utah. And for the however several hundred of therapists there are here, there's that many different value systems,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and there's probably a lot of value systems that overlap, but it's extremely important when you're vetting out a therapist to understand that there should at least be able to, in your first appointment or phone call or whatever, there should be a sense that you start to get as to whether or not the value system aligns enough with your value system to make the therapy process work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll run into a ton of friction, not the kind of friction that's good, like curious, like, oh, I need to rethink that, or I need to, but more just like flat out difference in values. And then that friction will end up making you feel bogged down and stuck in the relationship if it's too stark and too different.
Yep. Yep. Um, that's true. And that goes right along with what I was saying, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody's a fit for you. And Tyler and I are brothers and we have a lot of the same values and yet we're different. And it's interesting, Tyler, we have people come through who really align with you and some that really align with me, and that's good. That's fine. That's normal.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing to consider, Tyler, I want you to think about this. You remember when we used to mow lawns?
Of course
And
I do.
and like we got pretty good at it. Like we could give a good service, right? Like
Yeah. We
yeah.
got good and proficient at it. Like
We could do it quick and
and do a
quality
good
work,
job. Yeah.
right? And after we'd like do a lawn and we did a nice job and you turn around, you look back, like how did that feel? What did you see?
It always felt so good, like a full accomplishment, you
Like
know.
nice lines in
You'd
that
be jump in the
lawn.
van and turn the music back on and grab that big like 64-ounce Dr. Pepper
And
and
look at that grass that we just mowed and it's just like the clean lines, no grass on the sidewalk, like. And
if
therapy
you
is
if you could get one of those like elderly ladies that nitpicked everything to just like smile at you when you drove away, you
oh
know you nailed it.
man.
Yeah.
Therapy does not work that way. Doesn't work that way. And
Yeah.
sometimes uh, a therapist can play a critical role in a really important moment. Like let's say someone comes in, like an adolescent comes in, they need to have a real hard boundary with their parent. A therapist can help them hold a line and do a really hard thing. But in the end, you don't have that feel good feeling of the clean lines of the grass. It usually leads to more chaos in that person's life that they then need to work through. And I got a text last week from a client. It mentioned you too, someone who's been to our retreats and things, who basically said, I can't believe how far I've come. I'm seeing the positive outcomes in my life. Without you and Tyler, I never would have gotten there. I should have shared this with you. Um, those moments happen, but I've known that guy for years, years, and it's little incremental shifts and steps that take place over time that you start to see progress. And I guess I'm saying this because the expectation of I'm going to go to therapy and get fixed should shift to I'm going to go to therapy and start to get to work.
Yeah,
And I'm going to
I'm gonna
engage in a
continue my
process.
journey.
I'm going to engage in a process. And a good therapist knows that as you go up and progress, you're going to fall back and go up and fall back, and it's going to be like that. And they're there for the journey, and they understand it, and they've seen it before. Um, but it's usually messy.
Yeah,
So
it is messy. And it's hard, and that's what makes therapies, I think, frustrating for the client too, Brandon, is that sometimes that messiness, it's like, how do you discern the messiness that's wrong versus the messiness that's right?
yeah,
That might be a whole different topic for a different
yeah, that'd
podcast
be a good topic.
sometime. But yeah, you're right. And it's hard because, this comes into it too. Like and this may be what you're talking about a little bit. If your therapist trying to extract from you, one of the things that they often try to extract, if they're not very confident in who they are, is you telling them how amazing they are.
Yeah.
Um, it's great. Like, by all means, be grateful, show gratitude, like, to people. It's going to make your life better, including your therapist, whatever. But if your therapist needs you to tell you those things, they're not quite seasoned enough yet.
You know what's crazy, Tyler, is I was that guy. I was
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for everyone to tell me I was awesome. and and as I was that guy, guess what happened to my caseload?
Yeah, it goes down
I couldn't fill it up.
because you're focusing on the wrong inputs.
Right. And when I realized, like, look, I'm not here to consume and extract from my clients. And it's interesting because now when I get the like praise, it feels good and I appreciate people being grateful.
Yeah,
But
of course.
it doesn't fill my cup for my self-worth.
That's the key. It's the
Yeah.
self-worth part of it.
And there's another side to that, which is when people are frustrated or have a hard time with what I have to say, but it was honest and real, I can deliver that still because I don't need them to like me. So yeah, it, that's important. So yeah, we're not here as therapists to get our value and our worth from you. That's what a good therapist does. So
Yeah.
um Tyler, you're an awesome therapist, man. Keep up the good work.
Oh, dude,
You're a,
thanks so much. You just made my day. I
you're a
can go
great
on today.
example. You're the best ever. You're the best ever.
You too, Brandon. Likewise.
Yeah. And if you want therapy from Tyler, you can go to him and he'll turn you down because he's such a good therapist.
No, that's not what I was saying.
I know. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of an insight and a perspective into kind of maybe what's going on the other side of things sometimes that maybe you don't consider. And thank you for being with us. If you have other questions or other insights, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you rate, review, come subscribe to us on YouTube. Whatever. We just love being a part of your lives the way that you let us be. And until next time, keep on keeping on.